Now, when it comes to the Hurun Ayn, it is understood, and there's no controversy in this at all, that of course the Hurun Ayn are for the men and not for the women. And this is something that understandably questions are raised, and there's an element of awkwardness. And the response really is that, I mean, there's just no way around it, and that is that Allah created men and women differently, and men and women have different desires. And again, all you need to do is open your eyes and look at, well, not look at physically, but look at how the genders and how I mean, what other way to say this? I mean, look at the porn industry and look at all of this. Again, when I say look at, I don't mean with your eyes, I mean examine and whatnot. Which gender is being catered to 90% of it? Which gender, right? So Allah Azza wa Jal created men and women. Look at the advertisements, look at the clothing, you know, look at the skimpiness. Which gender is being, you know, put in front of the other in the TV and whatnot? Which gender is the one that is, whose body is sexualized? This is what Allah Azza wa Jal created us with. And one simple way to do this is that if you were to survey, and in fact, you know, I've done a smaller survey similar in this regard, and so I can actually speak from experience, but I'm giving a hypothetical one. If you were to do a survey, because I've taught classes, thousands of people, and sometimes the classes are women only, sometimes they're men only. If you were to, and I've asked this question, I've done a survey. If you were to do a survey of, let's say, 100 women, okay, 100 women, anonymous, describe Jannah. What is your main, like, give me one thing that you're really looking forward to in Jannah, okay? If you were to ask 10 sisters, you would probably get 10 different answers, okay? 100 sisters, you probably get maybe 80 different answers or whatnot. You would get, you know, just the peace and nobody irritating me, and nobody backbiting. I don't have to worry about my body image. I can eat and drink without any problems, you know, no hijab and whatnot, whatever it might be. You might get so many different, you know, responses. Generally speaking, you would not get the desire of intimacy that much in a large group of women. Now, if you were to ask 100 men, pretty much a large percentage of them would have that on their list of what they're looking forward to in Jannah. It is what it is, and Allah Azza wa Jal is catering to what He knows will be an incentive. He created us, and He knows what is desired. And you know, we are not Victorian. We can say this bluntly. Every man desires that level of intimacy, and there's nothing to be embarrassed about. And Allah Azza wa Jal created women to not desire multiple partners. They want one partner who will be their rock and their foundation and their support and their emotional, and they will get that partner, the partner that will love them and care for them and cherish them for all and all of eternity. And Allah Azza wa Jal obviously knows that this is what they want, and that's what they're going to get. And as for men, they can have that partner, and they can also enjoy other partners. It's not going to affect their love for the first one. And of course, we also have to realize that there is obviously no jealousy in Jannah, and it is understandable that in this world, sometimes, you know, there's an element of awkwardness that some of our sisters will feel. There's nothing wrong with that, to feel an element of awkwardness, as long as you don't reject it, as long as you don't, you know, negate. You're allowed, like Allah says in the Quran, certain things have been prescribed for you and you don't like them. Understandable, but you accept. In the end of the day, that there must be a level of acceptance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Also, Imam al-Qurtubi has a beautiful paragraph in his book about the women of Jannah that are righteous women compared to the Hurun Ayn of Jannah. And he says that there is no comparison, that the women of Jannah are much higher in their beauty and in their rewards and in their blessings than the Hurun Ayn. And that is because that Allah Azza wa Jal will bless the righteous lady with Jannah, and the Hurun Ayn are but a blessing of Jannah, and the two are not the equal. In fact, Imam al-Qurtubi says that it is as if the lady that's righteous, she is like the queen, and these Hur are like the servants of the household or whatnot. There is no comparison, because the righteous lady is being rewarded with Jannah, and she's enjoying Jannah. And as for the Hurun Ayn, they are not they are not being rewarded with Jannah. They are not enjoying Jannah the way that the ladies of Jannah are. Rather, they are an enjoyment of Jannah for one of the genders. And so there is no question, therefore, and in fact Imam al-Qurtubi and others, they mention therefore that the love and the beauty and the perfection of the women who enter Jannah will be in no comparison at all, will be much more than that of the Hurun 'Ayn. And again, as we said, there is no concept of jealousy at all whatsoever. No matter how jealous a lady feels now, it is permissible. It's nothing wrong, by the way, to feel jealous. But in Jannah, there is no jealousy. So with that, we move. And as we said, there is no single person in Jannah. So even ladies that never got married, they shall have a life partner. But of course, the reality, and again, there is no shying away from this, that human nature and society is such that a lady wants one partner. The lady that has multiple partners in every single society is looked down upon. She goes through multiple partners left and right. She is not viewed to be a noble. It's not something to be praised. As for a man having multiple wives, taking care of them, in most cultures and societies, this was something to be praised. In modern times, it has become different, but in most cultures and societies, this was something to be praised, and there's simply no getting around that Allah created men and women differently. Now, what does the notion of Hoor mean? What does the word mean? So the term Hoor comes from Hawar. And Hawar, it describes the sharp contrast between the extreme blackness and the extreme whiteness. And 'Ayn is the plural of A'yun or Ayn. So 'Ayn is the plural of Ayn. Ayn which means eye. And 'Ayn can be made plural as A'yun, and 'Ayn can also be made plural as 'Ayn. So Hurun 'Ayn is the description of the contrast between the whiteness of the iris and the darkness of the pupil of the eyes. Okay, so our eyes compose of the iris, which is the outer part, and then the pupil, which is the inner part. And Hawar is, or Hoor is the plural, Hawar is the contrast of the white and the black, and 'Ayn is the eyes. So Hurun 'Ayn is describing a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala via their eyes. And Allah Azza wa Jal is saying that their eyes are beautiful, and the whiteness and the whiteness of the iris and the darkness of the pupil are absolutely perfect. Now, by the way, interesting point here, that a number of years ago, I read an article on the BBC, and I want to point out on the BBC so that you don't think I'm reading this type of stuff outside. BBC, I read BBC every single day. There was an article on the BBC that a computer program had generated from thousands and thousands and thousands of images of models from around the world, men and women, had generated a whole list of what is considered beautiful and handsome globally. What are the characteristics? A computer program was programmed to absorb all of these data points, and they plotted out facial features and whatnot, and they gave a list, a long list of, well, it wasn't very long, but it was a list of things that are found universally attractive. And one thing that struck my eye was the fact that across all cultures, in females, proportional eyes that are large and have contrasting pupil colors between the pupil and the iris is something that is beautiful. Okay, this is something that has been discovered by surveys across the globe. And you know, if you look at the cartoons that show exaggerated features of men and women and whatnot, you know, you always find those cartoon characters, they're acting flirtation and coquettish and whatnot, and their eyes are enlarged, and their irises are much larger and absolutely white, and then the pupils are whatever colors. Of course, in Arabian culture, all pupils were black colored, obviously. In Western culture, you have, you know, different colors. The point, though, is the contrast, really, not necessarily the blackness. In Arabian culture, black was the default beauty when it came to the color of the pupils, but obviously in other cultures it's different. But what was interesting was that in all cultures, a large whiteness of the iris contrasted with a strong color.